Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Getting close to good evening. Haven't been on for a while. Took Easter off just to chill out, recharge the batteries. Got a big week this week, starting right now. Getting a bit dark in here. I might have to turn that light on, but it annoys the crap out of me, so we'll see how we go. Haven't been on since April the 2nd. So I'm taking the holy weekend off, so got a bit of catching up to do. So bear with me and then I'll get into my rant. Lots going on, so lots to rant about, so stick with me. Oh, before I start, I nearly forgot. Welcome to my co-host. There he is, coming across to say g'day and going back to his couch. Dogs are great. He's the smartest dog. And I'll get you a look at our miserable Melbourne weather. We've had some really good run with it, but usually about this time after Easter, it starts to turn like this, and winter is well and truly on its way. That's the bay over there. Lots of grey cloud, been a lot of rain, wind, lots of waves breaking out there. Grey ocean. Yeah, I think summer's over. And I've still got my cough from the cold I had a week or two ago. So, summer's definitely over, and I'll probably get another bloody cold in the very near future with winter coming on. So we'll see how we go with this light. Daylight savings has ended, which I figured out last night. You don't even know it these days. You just wake up and your phones are all adjusted and whatever, and then you jump in your car, and mine's still an old manual thing. So, it's when it's 7 o'clock, it's saying 8 o'clock. I only figured that out last night. I went out to go to Coles. I looked at my car clock and I thought, oh, they're all shut, because I got one here that's up until 11 at night. And my thing was saying 11:15. It was actually 10:15. I could have gone. But anyway, the price of getting old. Okay. April 3rd, Jesus appears to his disciples. Jesus knew that his followers needed lots of help to believe that he was really alive, and he gives it in a very down-to-earth terms. This is Luke 24:36 through 49. While the two were telling them this, suddenly the Lord himself stood amongst them and said to them, "Peace be with you." They were terrified, thinking they were seeing a ghost. But he said to them, "Why are you alarmed? Why are these doubts coming up in your minds? Look at my hands and my feet, and see that it is I myself. Feel me, and you will know, for a ghost doesn't have flesh and bones, as you can see I have." He said this and showed them his hands and his feet. They still could not believe. They were so full of joy and wonder. So he asked them, "Have you anything here to eat?" They gave him a piece of cooked fish, which he took and ate in their presence. Then he said to them, "These are the very things I told you about while I was still with you. Everything written about me in the law of Moses, the writings of the prophets, and the Psalms had to come true." Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures and said to them, "This is what is written. The Messiah must suffer and must rise from death 3 days later. And in his name, the message about repentance and the forgiveness of sins must be preached to all nations. And I myself will send upon you what my Father has promised. But you must wait in the city until the power from above comes down upon you." And that is pretty much the entirety of the Easter message, isn't it? So interesting weekend, old Easter. It can be quite confronting, especially the Good Friday stuff, but I do find it fascinating. Just checking my mic and thing that everything's working. Yep, beautiful. I do find it fascinating, the whole weekend, because this is the most, people would say Christmas is probably the most important week. I would say Easter by far is the most important week religiously of the year. A meeting with purpose, John 20:24 through 31. Doubting Thomas meets the risen Lord, Jesus at last. John explains that he had a very definitive purpose in writing his gospel. One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." Thomas said to them, "Unless I see the scars of the nails in his hands and put my finger on those scars and my hand in his side, I will not believe." A week later, the disciples were together again indoors, and Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, but Jesus came in and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Then stretch out your hand and put it in my side. Stop your doubting and believe." Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Do you believe because you see me? How happy are those who believe without seeing me?" In his disciples' presence, Jesus performed many other miracles which are not written down in this book. But these have been written in order that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and through your faith in him, you may have life. John 21, 1 through 14. Jesus appears to 7 disciples. He was a busy man after resurrection. The disciples still didn't know what came next. Some returned to their previous work. This meeting with the risen Jesus changed them. After this, Jesus appeared once more to his disciples at Lake Tiberias. This is how it happened. Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael, the one from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples of Jesus were all together. Simon Peter said to the others, "I'm going fishing." "We will come with you," they told him. So they went out in a boat. But all that night they did not catch a thing. As the sun was rising, Jesus stood at the water's edge, but the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Then he asked them, "Young men, haven't you caught anything?" "Not a thing," they answered. He said to them, "Throw your net out on the right side of the boat and you will catch some." So they threw the net out and could not pull it back in because they had caught so many fish. The disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It is the Lord." When Peter heard that it was the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken his clothes off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples came to shore in the boat, pulling the net full of fish. They were not very far from land, about 100 meters away, when they stepped ashore. They saw a charcoal fire there with fish on it and some bread. Then Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you have just caught." Simon Peter went aboard and dragged the net ashore full of big fish, 153 in all. Even though there were so many, still the net did not tear. Jesus said to them, "Come and eat." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" because they knew it was the Lord. So Jesus went over, took the bread and gave it to them. He did the same with the fish. This then was the 3rd time Jesus appeared to disciples after he was raised from the dead. That is actually covered in a really good film called The Risen, but it includes a Roman captain or whatever it was out of the Roman army who was trying to prove Jesus had died. It's an interesting film based around historical fact or biblical fact, if you want. It's worth a look. If you watch Passion of the Christ, watch The Risen. Very good film. Paul preaches. Acts 13, 26 through 33. Paul was invited to speak in the synagogue in Antioch in Pisidia. This part of his sermons contains the heart of the Christian message. "My fellow Israelites, descendants of Abraham, and all Gentiles here who worship God, it is to us that this message of salvation has been sent. For the people who live in Jerusalem and their leaders did not know that he is the Savior, nor did they understand the words of the prophets that are read every Sabbath. Yet they made the prophets' words come true by condemning Jesus. And even though they could find no reason to pass the death sentence on him, they asked Pilate to have him put to death. And after they had done everything that the scriptures say about him, they took him down from the cross and placed him in a tomb. But God raised him from the dead. And for many days he appeared to those who had traveled with him from Galilee to Jerusalem. They are now witnesses for him to the people of Israel. And we are here, sorry, my nose is playing up, and we are here to bring the good news to you, what God promised our ancestors he would do. He's now done for us, who are their descendants, by raising Jesus to life. Excuse me. I'm still getting over this cold. A solid base, 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 11. Paul recounts some of the resurrection appearances of Jesus. Last one. So that his readers may grasp that the Christian faith rests on solid facts. And now I want to remind you, my brothers, of the good news which I preached to you, which you received and on which your faith stands firm. That is the gospel, the message that I preached to you. You are saved by the gospel if you hold firmly to it, unless it was for nothing that you believed. I passed on to you what I received, which is of the greatest importance, that Christ died for our sins, as written in the scriptures, that he was buried and that he was raised to life 3 days later, as written in the scriptures, that he appeared to Peter and then to all 12 apostles. Then he appeared to more than 500 of his followers at once, most of whom are still alive, although some have died. Then he appeared to James and afterwards to all the apostles. Last of all, he appeared to me, even though I am like someone whose birth was abnormal, for I am the least of all the apostles. I do not even deserve to be called an apostle because I persecuted God's church. But by God's grace, I am what I am. And the grace that he gave me was not without effect. On the contrary, I've worked harder than any of the apostles, although it was not really my own doing, but God's grace working with me. So then, whether it came from me or from them, this is what we all preach, and this is what you believe. So Paul went on to be the first pope. It's amazing, actually. There's two parts in there that are amazing. First one was this. And now I want to remind you, my brothers, of the good news which I preached to you, which you received, and on which your faith stands firm. That is the gospel, the message that I preached to you. You are saved by the gospel if you hold firmly to it. Now, how many Christian leaders are not holding firmly to the gospel? I belong to the Catholic Church. I love the Catholic Church. And I'm talking about the, I know there's people within the Catholic Church that are sinners. We all sin, okay? And some of us sin far worse than others. And the Catholic Church has had its fair share. But the church itself, which is separate from the humans, in my mind, the church is a living embodiment of God. It's the only one that has connection right back through to the apostles and the gospels in any manner or form compared to any other church. And you can have these arguments back and front. I don't want to get into that. But just the sacraments of the church, the history of the church, the teachings of the church, the dogma of the church, all the traditions and all that. We have that's why I'm conservative. To be a true Catholic, I think you've got to be conservative because you want to try and preserve the most famous fundamental teaching of our lifetime and what was the foundation of Western civilization, the foundation of the British Empire. And everyone will go, but it's Anglican. Yeah, but it was Catholic. And it became Anglican because of one selfish person's sexual desires to get rid of himself of his wife to get another wife. It's the only reason it broke away from the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church stuck to the Gospels and said, no, you can't do that. So that was that. But then the other more important part was Saul or Paul. And as he said, he persecuted the church. He hated the church. He hated Christians. And he persecuted them, imprisoned them, tortured them, even killed them. And yet God, through him, worked one of the greatest miracles and forgave him, redeemed him, and allowed him to go on to become one of his greatest servants before he was executed upside down in Rome, crucified upside down, I should say. And for those who don't know, he was crucified upside down because he didn't believe he had the same right to be crucified in the same manner as Christ. So the Romans, in their normal sort of way, said, well, we'll do it upside down then. So it's amazing that even the worst of people can be redeemed through Christ. So if you're an atheist, if you don't believe in it, I have these issues too in my life. There's times I don't go to church because I know that week I haven't lived the way a Christian should. Now, I know Christ wants me to go to church, but I don't go because, like Paul said there, I don't feel worthy of it. There's a fascinating, I can't remember, she was a saint, and she had a fascinating vision of church, and it's stuck with me for a while now, where your guardian angel, it's a beautiful image, where your guardian angel during a church service sits on your shoulder. where when the priest is holding up the Eucharist, it opens up, and this happens at the same time across the globe. It opens up a window to heaven where all the angels, the saints, Christ himself participate in that mass. It's a beautiful image. It's beautiful imagery. And you've, like it said there about the doubting Thomas, you've got to have faith. You know, faith, it's not blind faith. It's faith because you believe in it. In your soul, you know it's right. I don't need the proof. I know in my soul. I know, and there's plenty of proof, by the way. The fact that a carpenter from well over 2,000 years ago is still the most famous man in the world and will continue to be to the end of time is a miracle in itself, and proof enough that what happened in my book. I don't need any more than that. If you want to go searching for all more, that's up to you. But I would challenge everyone who's an atheist or considering about Christianity or being torn between faiths, get the full Bible. And the only full Bible is the Catholic Bible. The Protestants Bible has about 7 or 8 books. I think it's 7 that have been removed from it. Read it. Have the argument with yourself. And if you still don't want to believe, then that's fine. But at least then you've gone through the process to say, well, I believe or I don't believe. You know, that's what I did. And at the end of it, I chose to believe. Not at the end of it, actually, as I was reading it. It was just transforming me as I read it. And I'm still an unworthy Christian, just like Saul is. I'm an unworthy Catholic. I did this thing to honour Charlie Kirk, but I just find it, for me, it is something that I'm speaking about this because we've just come out of the Easter weekend. It is just something that resonated with me. And one of the other things that resonated with me in, I think it was 2005, was going and watching The Passion of the Christ. One of the most confronting films you can ever watch. I now watch it on the eve of every Good Friday. So last Thursday, before going Mass on Good Friday, I watched The Passion of the Christ. And the whipping scene, I still struggle to watch the whole scene. It's just, and apparently it's not even as bad as what Jesus went through. And when you put into consideration that man went through all of that willingly, these silly arguments that people are getting into about who killed Christ, Christ went to that cross and death willingly. It's not about who killed Christ. Christ realized that was his fate. What do you think the prayers in the Garden of Gethsemane were about? He could have left Jerusalem. He knew it was coming. He could have escaped. He could, like you said, Christ said this himself, he could have called down his legions of angels to get him out of that trouble. He didn't. He chose to go to that fate. So it doesn't matter who killed him because he had to die on that cross. On that cross. And if we're being honest, the people who killed him are people like me. I'm a sinner. I sin. Everyone out there sins. I feel unworthy of Christ every single day. And my way of probably making up for that unworthiness is this. I go to church when I feel worthy. I'm not going to say I go to church all the time because I don't. Sometimes I don't go to church because I'm lazy. I'm watching a good footy game. I'll go next. I did this on Sunday. I'll go to the 5 o'clock mass because I was watching a game on the TV. Then I find out my local church didn't have 5 o'clock mass for Easter, so I missed out, which is shameful, really. I chose a game of football over honouring the man who gave his life in such an horrific way for me and for you and for everyone on this planet, whether you're Islamic, Jewish, right, left, black, white, it was for all of us. And there's times I have hate in my heart. I really do. And I've got to fight against that hate. But there's times I think a lot of other people, and I'll say this, Tucker Carlson, for example, has hate in his heart. And then he uses the Bible to promote that hate like he did today. I don't presume anything. I have my religious beliefs. I have my political beliefs. But where I can, and it's not easy to do, my dog is going, "You're preaching too much, Dad. What's wrong? Hey, what's wrong? You all right? Yeah, go on your bed. Go on your couch. Go on your couch. Come on, get up there." He's a good boy. What was I saying? I do try and keep them separate. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, I can't even remember the other Barbie doll's name. Carry or something, I think it is. They shamelessly intertwine it. They beat everyone over their head with it, and they use their faith against their political beliefs to try and push a political point. I know I do my rant after reading that. Like I explain my reasons for why I do that. But I do try to separate them. Right now I'm evangelizing a little bit. But it does segue. I mean, it is very difficult in these days and times, probably any day or time, to separate religion and politics. They are intertwined in many ways, but I do think it's important. You have to still try to keep them separate as much as possible, but very difficult to do. But there are some that are willing to do it. And then there's the difference. We are fighting a civilization whose very existence relies on their faith, politically, ideologically, religiously, academically, institutionally. It relies on it. And I'm talking about Islam here. They have Sharia law that overrides a nation's law. And their faith, it does, whether they want to admit it or not. And a lot of them don't, or they just avoid it. In the Quran, it does teach violence towards non-believers. So in the Christian Bible, it teaches love, compassion, understanding, forgiveness. You couldn't find two more conflicting faiths. And yet Tucker Carlson today came out and used the Christian faith in an effort to defend the Islamic faith. King Charles is doing the same thing. And I'm going, it doesn't conflate. It just doesn't make sense. And even, dare I say it, may God forgive me if I'm saying the wrong thing, even some of our church leaders, such as the Pope, I think they're in a vain effort of forgiveness, trying to work alongside a faith that wants them dead. If I'm wrong, I'll happily ask forgiveness. I don't think I am. So we live in bizarre times. I'm going to turn the light on. Hold on. Now, does that mean, for example, I can't sit down with an Islamic person and have a discussion about faith? Of course it doesn't. Does that mean I want every Muslim deported from the country? Of course it doesn't. I do think there are some good Muslims simply because of the fact that I've met them. And they change my perception of what being a Muslim can be in many instances. But they have difficulty justifying a lot of their own faith when you get in the nitty-gritty of it. And so I have good Jewish friends. I have good Buddhist friends. I mean, I think as a Christian, one of the things you should have to do in your own life is to try and accept everyone as God's creation, as Christ's creation, as Christ's son or daughter, your Christian brother or sister, whether they're Christian or not. And sometimes that can be very difficult. And we live in times that we've got to choose, do we support Trump or do we support the Islamic lunatics in Iran? I support Trump every day of the week because I know if Trump wins, it'll bring peace in the Middle East. So it's the first time in my lifetime I can confidently say that there's a politician attacking the head of the snake that could defeat radical Islam. I've never been able to say that in my 62 years on this planet. And I lived through the Shah getting deposed and Ayatollah coming on, and yes, I'm going to hear all about how the Shah was in plan, all that. Yeah, it's not perfect. I understand the Western system isn't perfect. I understand the Yanks aren't perfect. But I tell you what, the Yanks are so much better than the crazy Allahs. I mean, seriously, look at the things that we've got off the Yanks. And you could argue whether they're good or not. McDonald's, KFC, in Australia, basketball, we've got gridiron, we've got pay TV. And we have a way of life that we can go out, earn a living, and enjoy our lives and believe in what we want to believe in to a degree these days. The Americans gave us the concept of the First Amendment. They gave us the concept of liberty. They gave us the concept of living without any kings except the one true king in Christ. So the Yanks have given us democracy in many ways, though the British can claim fame to that too. So Western civilization, the Americans, it has its faults, but is by far away the greatest force for humankind, for Christianity on this planet in its history. Full stop. Nothing close to it. So yeah, I choose their side. And in choosing that side, it's going to end up in death, and it's going to end up in death. It's going to end up in a lot of sorrow, heartache. But if you don't choose that side, it's still going to end up in probably more death, more heartache, more sorrow. At least this gives peace a chance. The other one doesn't. So, yeah, Trump is a funny vehicle to be sent to us to give peace that chance, but he's doing it. And what he said today in his press conference is 1,000% right. He's doing what no other president in 47 years had the balls to do, but knew they should have done it. And we would be in a different moment right now. And the disappointing thing isn't that. The disappointing thing is all the woke right types like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Alex Jones, who today was calling him to be impeached and removed under their 25th Amendment or something like that. I mean, the man's fighting a war of civilizations and they can't see it. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing on my podcast at 8 o'clock a lot of the images from Iran that show how can we as Christians turn a blind eye to their suffering. You're not going to, and I put this to Mick Amanis. I agree with Mick. I don't know his real name. On X is Mick Amanis. We get into a lot of butting of heads, but we agree on a lot too. But we're both Catholics. We both believe in Christianity. We both have different ideas about it. I'm full on with Trump in Iran. He's not. Fair enough. I can appreciate it. And look at that. In Australia, we can disagree. If I disagreed against the Allahs in Iran, I'd get shot. I'd get hung. I'd get thrown off a building. And that's been proven conclusively. Yeah, I think that's right. For decades now, ever since the Ayatollah came to power. So there's evil in this world, and you can't just turn a blind eye to it and sit in your corner of the world and say it's not going to come here. It's here. It's here. It's in the western suburbs of Sydney. It's in the western suburbs of Melbourne. It's in Springvale. It's here. You have, and I'm not talking all Muslims, but you have radical elements within our community that would like to see it. They come out and openly say it. They would like to tear down Australia as it was and replace it with their version of Australia. Elbow's progressive patriotism. Two of the most evil words you can put together, and that includes the word patriotism. Progressive patriotism. He wants us to accept an Australia we don't want. But a lot of the new Australians or new immigrants do want. Now, there's so many good immigrants out there. I would like to get, I'm inviting Scotty Chalon back on here soon. Don't know whether he will. He's an important man these days. I'm small fry. You know, he gets to be interviewed by Carl Stefanovic and a bunch of others. But I hope I can get him back on because I've sent messages to, I'll get his name wrong, Sam Banfield, the Two-Face podcast. I just want to get an absolute confirmation on what they mean by deportations and re-immigration. I really do. Now, we have to do something about immigration. Now, whether we can freeze it straight away, I'm not sure. I don't know the nuance of it. That's what Scott is calling for, an absolute freeze on the immigration right now. Will that cause an economic problem? We don't want to go into that because a lot of people can get hurt. We haven't been through a real economic downturn for a long, long time. And I think people wishing that upon us, I'm not too sure if they understand what they're really wishing upon us. We are so... if we go into an economic downturn, it's a serious one right now, all our parameters, our national debt, our creation of jobs, it's more in the public sector than the private sector. I'm trying to think of the word. The amount of businesses that are on the cliff, on the verge of falling over the edge, they'll all get pushed off. Australia will become a wasteland economically. We can't right now in our time, this point in time, afford a drastic economic downturn, a recession maybe. If we get a bad recession or even worse, the big depression, we're in all sorts of shit, all Australians. So I just think we've got to be very careful in the what things we say and what we want. So I definitely think mass immigration tomorrow's got to stop. Does all immigration stop? And should it? I'm of the opinion we can't turn a blind eye to people who are suffering, good people. I'm not talking the arseholes, good people who are suffering, and allow them to find safety on our shores. We're a Christian nation. If we're a Christian nation, we can't turn a blind eye to that. We just can't. Can you hold on a bit? I think I've got to let my dog out. You'll see in a minute. You want to go out? He wants to. Give me 2 ticks. I'll be back. All right, come on. Come on. Come on. Sorry, everyone. That's my dog's message. He needs to go out for his loo break, so I better not ignore it. Got to be careful. He barks at everything out there. The neighbours hate him. So, yeah, I'd like to get a bit more definition behind what they're talking about, remigration and deportation. Deportation, to me, is a bit of a frightening word. If it means getting out all the criminals, all for it. If it means getting out all the radicals, all for it. If it means someone, and I interviewed him the other day, Dr. Amir, I'm trying to get him back on, and he was an Assyrian Christian who lived through the Iraq War when the Yanks came, and he thought the Yanks coming was a great thing. But he came away, and if you listen to his story, the interview I did with him, which you can find on my feed, what he and his family had to go through, there's no way we as Christians can turn a blind eye to that. Does that mean a person like him would get deported back to where he came from, where he had friends that got beheaded? I mean, is that what we've become as a country? It's not what our diggers did. I mean, even with what Trump said this morning, I find very uncomfortable now that Australia is not a trusted ally on 2 fronts. One, we can't defend ourselves. We need the Yanks. Sorry. You can live in La La Land all you like, but we're 20 years away from having a defence force. If we started today to build a defence force that could defend this continent, we're 20 years away from it. Easy, maybe more. I mean, to defend this continent, we need an army, I would say, between 500,000 to 1 million men. We would need a high-tech army, by the way. And we would need a nuclear deterrent. So we'd have to develop nuclear submarines, missile silos, all that sort of thing, just as a deterrent to make sure that no other enemy would be stupid enough to come near this country. We're nowhere near that at all. We wouldn't have the drone capacity, the missile defense capacity, the naval capacity, the Air Force capacity to defend this continent. We don't have it. We need the Yanks. Yeah, we've got to kiss their ass a bit. Sorry, you might not like hearing that. I wish it wasn't the case, but it is the case. So to shaft the Americans like that, I'm sorry, and everyone goes, oh, well, send your own son or daughter. Well, guess what? Since the start of this country, since the Boer War, parents have been sending their sons and their daughters out into harm's way. Now, no one wants to do that, but to secure this country, it's a necessity. I'm sorry, it's a necessity to be able to defend. And if you can't defend your nation, you lose it. And the concerning thing where our 2-party system has now led us, can't believe I'm saying that, I don't usually say it, but our major parties have let us down. Our young people do not love their country enough that they would fight and die for it. And that's where I think you've lost your nation. So can we get it back? Let's see. Tomorrow, Malcolm Roberts, 4 o'clock. We can ask him some of these questions. Special event, 4 o'clock. I've got my podcast tonight at 8. So it's a busy little couple of days after taking 4 days off. And we need to get to the bottom of a lot of these questions. So I'll be asking, we'll be having a good discussion. Malcolm Roberts is one of the few senators, politicians in Canberra that when I've written to them has come back to me. And One Nation have been good enough, probably, they may think they're going to get a good run, and they probably will, But I'll ask questions I think are necessary. But I never really, when I have these things, I have a discussion. I'm not, if there needs to be a confrontation, I'll have it. But if there doesn't need to be confrontations and we can keep it respectful and we can get out information there, especially to people who are considering One Nation as a vote, then that's what I'm all about for tomorrow. We've got an election coming up. We don't know much about One Nation in Victoria. Let's find out a little bit more about them. I'm at the point, I'll give One Nation my vote anyway because I just don't trust the two other big bastards anyway. But I'd like to find out a bit more about their plans, not just for Victoria, but for federally as well. So I think it'll be a really good conversation. Looking forward to it. Hope you can join me 4 o'clock tomorrow or 8 o'clock tonight for the podcast. Till then, can't say goodbye from me and my dog. Hold on, we'll try. JJ, inside. Here he comes. He's coming. Here he comes. Come on. Inside. Here we go. So from me, that's so smart. JJ inside. That's all it takes. I say JJ inside and in he comes and he's ready. Come here. He's a good boy. He's been out the front causing all sorts of trouble. He's like a teenage boy at the moment. He's going on 5. So what's that, mate? 35. He should be a bit more mature, but he's not. Look, he always does that. He always puts his head into your chest. He loves it. Don't you? Yes. Yeah. Oh, God. I'm as bad as the ones I hate. Oh, there he goes on his couch. You talk like baby talk to your dogs, and I find myself doing that. Kind of embarrassing. But from me, from JJ, God bless you, especially after this holy Easter weekend. God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless your pets. God bless that flag. God bless this country. Let's get it back on track. And I'll see you either tonight at 8 o'clock or tomorrow with Senator Malcolm Roberts at 4. All right. See you, everybody. Bye.